Welcome back to our series in wealth management. Last Sunday, I spoke about the importance of understanding the truth that we really hold all the money in our control as we hold them in trust, that we are managers of the money and not owners. And understanding the difference is critical because if you are a money manager, then the first question you must ask yourself is, what does the owner want me to do with this money? What's the purpose of parking this money with me? And I explained that God's purpose for putting that money in our care is not to maximize money, the amount of money that we have, but to maximize the meaning that we can add to life. And the way we add meaning to life of our money is by not by using it for our own self, our own benefit, but to use it to share, to serve, and to bless other people who are in need. I also spoke about how most people manage their wealth, which is in this order: spend first, save whatever you have, and then give any leftovers. And that usually means, in fact, practically, that there's often little or nothing left to give away. When we adopt the spend first, save second, and give approach, we are behaving as owners and not managers of our wealth. We fail as wealth managers. So I submitted to you a very simple plan. Okay, and that is to flip the order around, that instead of that plan, what we should do is to give first, save second, and spend last. Now let's say that together again, shall we? Yes, that's right. Make a commitment to do that, and then you assign beforehand a percentage. You allocate a percentage to each category so that when you receive any income, you just apply automatically to those three categories. Give first, save second, and spend last. Now, that's a very simple plan to understand and to remember. You don't even write it down, but you will find that if you try putting into practice, it is much harder than it sounds. It is much harder. You'll be surprised that it is so much harder than it sounds. I remember many years ago, I had a conversation with my sister, and one day she told me, I have not given my monthly tithes to the church for many months already. So I said, what's the problem? Do you have some financial issues? And she said, no, but actually it just happened like that. For several months I just forgot. I just plain overlooked it. I was busy, I was away, I overlooked it. And every month that I don't give, the amount adds up, begins to snowball. Now I'm not given for 6 months already. The total amount added up is so big, I can't bear to part with it anymore. Now that's if you think about it from a mathematical point of view, that makes no sense at all, because the absolute amount that she's going to put into the offering bag would be no different whether she had given regularly, once a month, every month, or now if she were to put in that total of the 6 months offering that she did not give, or at one time as a lump sum. Either way, she would have been in the same position financially and mathematically, no better off, no worse off. So what is her reluctance about? But her reluctance is very telling, right? What her struggle reveals is that there is something sinister, something insidious about money that profoundly affects not just her, but all of us. It affects you, it affects me, and although it will manifest itself in different ways in different people, there's something about money that makes us all think and act irrationally. And most of the time, we are not even aware of the effect that money has on us. That's because we tend to think that money by itself is neutral. It's neutral. It's just pieces of paper, coins, figures in the internet. We think that money is neutral. It's just a tool. It is neither good. It is neither bad in itself. To a certain extent, that's true. But what Jesus taught us, which has been proven to be true down through the ages, is that there is something inside every one of our hearts that makes the handling of money a potentially harmful exercise. It's just like many useful things in life. It's just like, say, electricity or radiation, right? Money has many wonderful and helpful uses, but it has to be handled with the utmost care. I once watched a documentary. It was fascinating because in the early days of X-rays, when people discovered the use of X-rays, they were so fascinated by it. People began to think up all kinds of wonderful uses for X-rays. And one of the industries that really bought into this big time was the shoe industry, the people who sell shoes. And you could go to a shoe shop, and many of them will have X-ray machines in the shop so that you could try on a pair of shoes, look at the X-ray machine and see how it fits inside, how your feet fits inside the shoe, whether it was good fit or not a good fit. A really clever and wonderful application of X-rays with disastrous consequences. And it took people some time to find out about that. In fact, it's so interesting that Brother Gabriel Chan is an MC. Okay, and if you didn't know, he is a radiologist by training. Yesterday I was reading a book, and it said that radiologists are known to have the shortest lifespan among doctors. And not only that, it says that radiologists regularly have to put up with the joke, the question. People are always asking them, hey, how's your sex life? Okay, because of the effects of radiation that may make people sterile. And I thought when I read that, I really must go and ask Brother Gabriel. Not about his sex life, but whether people ask him that question. But I'm old enough to remember a time when we took X-rays, whether it was a chest X-ray or in a dentist chair, and the doctor, the dentist, or the technician will stay in the room when you took the X-ray. But these days, you notice they will step out of the room, okay, when the X-ray is being taken just for a moment. Because over time, we begin to realize the hazards that these things pose, and we learn to handle them with greater care. We don't allow people to work with electricity or radiation unless you've been thoroughly trained to avoid and manage and mitigate the hazards that these things pose. The problem with money is that few of us are even aware that it poses a risk to our health, mentally, emotionally, relationally, and spiritually, let alone take measures and steps to protect ourselves. So listen carefully. My message today is not money is bad. Therefore, all of you just don't be so worldly. Stop chasing money. Give away all your money. No, it's not that. Okay, I think it's wonderful as a church if all of you make as much money as you can. But my message is that if we're going to manage wealth effectively and safely for the long term, we need to understand the risks involved, very real risks involved, and learn how to protect ourselves. Then we can enjoy our money, God's money, and we can fulfill God's purposes for money without harming ourselves and without damaging other people. So, what is it about money that makes it so hazardous to our health? For the answer, let's go back to the same passage that we looked at last week, found in Luke chapter 12, and we start reading from verse 13. Again, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you." Okay, this is so interesting, and just pause at a moment here because the Bible tells, and Jesus himself announced that he is really the judge that's going to be appointed over all mankind. He's going to return and judge the whole world. So he kind of says this tongue-in-cheek, but this is not the kind of things I'm going to judge. Then he said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger ones, and I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself?" Jesus' conclusion, verse 29, "This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God." How does managing money pose a risk to us? How can we guard against it? Today, I'm going to answer these questions using 3 keywords, which are promises, problems, and precautions. Promises, problems, and precautions. So let's start the first one, promises. The promises that offered by wealth, the promises, the good things that wealth holds out to us. There is something inside every human heart that is drawn powerfully to wealth. Not only that, we tend, as I said, to be unaware of the danger that this strong attraction poses. In this story, a man came to Jesus to seek help with what he must have thought is basically a family financial feud, a matter of justice, that he just wants Jesus to come and help sort things out. And the surprising thing is that Jesus not only rejected his request outright, he used that man as an example, as a sermon illustration. Okay, and we hate all that, right? He used that man as a sermon illustration to teach a very important point, and it must have been terribly embarrassing for the man standing down there. Okay, because in verse 15, he said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. And guess, who's everybody going to look at? The guy who asked the question, oh, this guy, it's the greedy guy, right? Now, we know Jesus to be an extraordinarily helpful, kind, and compassionate person. He often went out of his way to help people that nobody else would have helped, to heal, to touch, to encourage people. So, in this case, the question is, why would he respond in such a harsh manner, such a manner that was so embarrassing for the guy? And the only reason that he had done it must be because there is something seriously crucial at stake here. And there's something at stake here that is far, far more valuable than any share of the inheritance that this man could have secured from his brother. What Jesus had to say to him, to the crowds, and to us, you and me today, is something that we absolutely must learn if we are to manage wealth safely. Jesus says, watch out, be on your guard. And, we only use words like that when we expect serious and sudden attacks that come out of nowhere. We usually say such things only in the sports arena or in the battlefield, right? And that's exactly the point. Whenever we deal with money matters, something subtle, something powerful is out to get us, and the stakes are really high. We can never be too careful with handling money. Tell the person on your right, watch out. Tell the person in your life, be on your guard. Okay, that's why we don't pass the offering bags anymore. Now, why do we need to watch out? What do we need to watch out for? Jesus says we need to watch out for greed. Everybody say greed. Okay, and Jesus not only says greed, he says all kinds of greed. Because most of the time we don't recognize that we are under assault by greed. Because it takes many different forms. Greed comes in many guises. Greed works by relying on the different benefits that money holds out to us. And to understand this, let's just examine a short analysis of the kind of benefits, the promises that money holds out to. Why is money so attractive to us? Because money provides us with some of the things that we really want very much in our hearts. First one is protection. Protection. What did the rich man say to himself? You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. You don't have to worry, you're safe. In other words, you have hedged yourself against the uncertainties of the future. You're all ready for retirement. Whether they're good harvest, bad harvest, famine, drought, no problem. You are going to be just fine. Other people may starve, other people may die, but not you. Because you've been clever enough to secure your supplies for a long, long time. You have plenty of grain, plenty of face masks, plenty of toilet paper. No worries. You can relax and be at peace. This aspect of money is so powerfully attractive to us because it preys on our fears. And fear can be a very consuming thing. Fears make us imagine the worst case scenarios, right? And because of that, money holds out the promise of security and protection to us, and it draws us in. Secondly, money offers us the promise of pleasure. Pleasure. The rich man said to himself, take it easy, eat, drink, let's be merry. For some of us, the appeal of money is not so much in security as in the ability, the power to splurge. Because money holds out the prospect of being able to indulge in the good things in life that you see on all the advertisements. And now don't even need on advertisements that you see all your friends post on social media. Right? Day after day, hour after hour. Most of us, all of us, okay, except for maybe very few institutions, all of us have things that we see other people enjoying that we would love to have as well. But we can't afford it at this point in time. And that is very subtle, right? It makes us wish secretly that we had more money, a lot more money to buy whatever they have, whatever is newer, bigger, shinier, faster. And the lure of pleasure is a very, very powerful inducement. Number 3, money offers the promise of power. Power. How does this come out from the passage? The rich man said, I will store up my grains. I will store up my grain. Okay, what's the significance of that? Have you thought about his plan? For many years, I read this, and somehow I just read it wrongly, because I thought what the rich man was really saying is, look, I got so much grain, I'm going to buy more land, and then this year I'm going to plant more, sow more seeds, and next year I'll have even bigger harvest, and every year I accumulate more and more. But actually, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. Jesus said that this guy's land is so fertile, extraordinarily fertile, he already had an overwhelming amount of grain. Okay, he already had a humongous harvest. And his problem is that he had so much. So what does he say he'll do? He says, I'm going to tear down my barns. I'm going to build bigger ones so that I can have a place to store my grains. Now, that may sound puzzling to you all. Okay, but what is he really saying? I think what he's really saying is this. I'm going to build taller barns. Taller barns. Because I can't take up more land area, then I can't plant, right? I'm going to build taller barns so that I can store more grain within the same amount of land area. In Singapore, it's called increasing the plot ratio, right? And that's how people make money, right? In en-bloc redevelopments. And why would he do something like that? Because he understands basic economics. He has so much grain at harvest time, he knows that if he dumps all that on the market at one time, it will cause a serious glut and prices would crash. Just like the reports I read about mangoes in the Philippines. They produce so much mango, it's practically worthless, and the people who grow mango cannot make any money at all. So this guy's plan is really to control supply so that he could keep the prices at a certain level, and especially in the bad years, when the harvest is bad, just like what Joseph did for Pharaoh in the Old Testament. Okay, and he's going to profit from that. He'll be the one controlling the market. Okay, it's about power. It's not just about a good life. It's not just about security. It's also the ability to wield the power that comes along with wealth. And that's irresistible to some of us. Finally, there's the offer of pride. The Bible calls this the boastful pride of life. The rich man in this story spoke only 60 words in the English language, but 10 times it's about himself. It's about I or mine. And wealth will have that effect on us. One benefit of wealth is this, which I think some of us find very attractive. One benefit of wealth is that it will make people think that you are really smarter than you are. Wealth will make people think you are smarter than you are. Now, this is very obvious when you observe a group of people with a rich person. Okay? You'll find that when people are with a rich person, they listen a lot more attentively. Okay? For every word that drips from the person's mouth as if they are gold. Okay? They disagree a lot less. Okay? I mean, if he's so rich, he must be cleverer than me. Right? And they laugh louder at the rich people's jokes. It's true. When you have wealth, people would think you are smarter than you really are. And not only that, when you're wealth, you will think that you are smarter than you really are. It's the insidious effect of wealth. And that's why this guy is so full of himself. And the truth is, we live in an economy, in modern economies, we live in a world where money becomes a convenient measure of worth of everything. To most of us, untrained people, a $20,000 diamond, looks no different from a $10,000 diamond to the naked eye. Now, it's easy, but the $20,000 stone is worth much more. It's far more valuable. It's far more desirable because we use money, as a gauge of value. And it's very easy. And we all do this to some extent, in our minds to make the leap, the connection, and use the amount of wealth people have as a measure of their worth. Right? We call them high net worth individual. But we don't just use it to mean financially. Subtly in our minds, we think that they are worth more as human beings as well. And we think that we ourselves will be worth more. We are more worthy people if we have more wealth. Okay? And this makes wealth so intoxicating for people. These are the promises, the benefits that wealth holds out to us. Okay, the different promises that wealth holds out to us, and in themselves, actually, these are generally not such bad things. Okay, many of them are good things. So why do we need to watch out? Why do we need to guard against them? That brings us to our second point, which is the problem with trusting in wealth. Now, the problem with trusting in wealth. To understand the danger posed by wealth, we need to go back again to what Jesus said after saying, Watch out, be on guard for all kinds of greed. He gives the explanation. He says in verse 15, life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. In other words, Jesus is saying that greed makes us think that wealth is the most important thing in life. It is the thing to chase after. It is the thing that gives us meaning and worth. It's the thing that fulfills us. It's the thing that will solve our problems. It's the thing that will secure protection for us. Because of all the wonderful benefits that wealth promises, our heart deceives us into putting our trust in wealth. Now, I think most of us don't think that we have that problem. Yeah? I think maybe all of us sitting here sincerely believe, no, we don't love money, we don't trust in wealth. Okay, I don't love money, we're just going steady only. Yeah? Because it's very hard to know that for yourself. We can always easily spot greed in other people, but it's very, very hard to see greed in a mirror. But there's a sure giveaway sign that you love money and that you have started trusting in wealth. And the book in the Bible, in the Old Testament, written thousands of years ago, gives us the telltale sign. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income. This too is meaningless. So guys, that is the telltale sign. And this is a sure indicator. Whatever you think or believe about yourself, do you love money? Do you trust enough money? That this is a telltale sign. If you feel that you're always thinking, I need more, I don't have enough. You love money, you put your trust in money. Now answer this question honestly, don't put out your hand. How many of you feel that you already have enough money? I don't need to have more. Okay? I have all that I need already. Or maybe let's make it more pertinent. How many of you are currently satisfied with your salary? With your income? One man put up his hand. Okay, fantastic. Please put more into the offering bag. Yeah. You know, you're already satisfied with your income. At your next your company's next pay review, will you tell your boss, I'm very satisfied with my income already. Please don't give me a raise. Okay, give it to other people. Will you say that? No, of course not. Which of you are going to say that? You think the guy is crazy. You know, actually, I've said that to my employers for many years already. Okay, but maybe you think full-time people are different. But we all tend to think that we don't have enough. Okay, the truth is we all have a tendency to trust in wealth. And maybe some of you are thinking, but what's wrong with that? What's wrong with trusting in money? Pastor actually said it can bring us so many good things. So, what's wrong with relying on trusting in wealth? Well, if you trust in wealth, the Bible tells us some seriously bad things are going to happen in your life. Okay, I'll just list three of them. The first one is called stress. Stress, which for many of us, well, it's the opposite of what we would expect if we have more money. When you're making a little money, you are likely to blame a lot of life's problems that you experience on the lack of money. Okay? Right? For your motto in life is not a love of money is the root of all evil. Your motto in life is the lack of money is the root of all evil. Okay? All your problems can be attributed to the fact that you don't have enough money. Okay? That's why you quarrel with your spouse over money. Right? That's why you feel so unhappy looking at other people drive their flashy and new car because, wow, they can't afford it, but you worry about the future. You worry about the loans that you have to pay. You worry about falling sick. In your mind, you're thinking, look, if I have more money, that is the solution. If I have a lot more money, then I'll be able to stop worrying. I'll be able to feel better about myself. I'll have peace. But when your income increases, okay, many of you, the older ones, you've experienced this. When your income increases, as it does for almost all of us over time, because we live in such a blessed country, the truth is you don't experience greater peace. Instead, you are much more likely to experience greater stress if you have put your trust in wealth. Think about it. When you were making $50,000 a year, some of you are there, you're still relatively new in the job market, you're making $50,000 a year. Some of you, well, you remember that time, quite a while ago. And suppose you are notified that you might lose your job. would you feel terribly worried about it? About finding another job? Yeah, okay, it's not nice to be told that you're going to lose your job, but you'd be terribly worried? No, because there are lots of $50,000 jobs out there. Okay, it won't be too difficult for you to find another job within a short time. Now, your income goes up. Think about a guy who makes $300,000 a year, $400,000, $500,000 a year, and you're thinking, if I can make $500,000 a year, all my problems will go away. Now, if you make that kind of money and you are about to lose your job, would it be far, far more stressful for you than the guy who makes $50,000? Yes. Because there are not that many $500,000 a year jobs out there. The stress is even more if you run your own business, and the same thing happens. If you used to make a small amount of money in your business, and then now you're making a big amount of money in business, and then maybe like the COVID-19 situation threatens your business, you're going to feel tremendous stress. Now, yes, it is true that if you have really too little money, it is going to be very stressful because, you do need a minimum amount of money to get by in life. But it is a lie that we all buy into, that if you have more money, a lot more money, beyond that, you will certainly experience greater peace and happiness, and it will allow you, like the rich man said, that I can take life easy. No. If you trust in money, the more money you have, the more stress it will add to your life. The second hazard of money is that we come under slavery. Okay, slavery. Now, this is really bizarre to us, okay, because we live in the modern world, in a society where slavery is something of the past. But this is especially true for those of you who are stuck in jobs that you hate, that you drag yourselves out of bed to go to every morning, jobs where you know that it is really not good for you, not good for your family, not good for your health, not good for your faith, but you hang in there. You hang in there desperately because they pay you well. And you just can't imagine accepting a lower standard of living. What is happening? Somebody else is in control of your life because they pay you good money. Also, this happens when you incur debt beyond your ability to service, which is what often happens when people trust in money. They want the money so much, they want it before they have earned it, so they incur debt. Right? They borrow from the bank or they don't pay up their credit cards in full. The thing is this, when you owe money to the bank, there's a great difference when you lend money to the bank. You put money in a savings account. Okay? You're actually giving a loan to the bank legally. There's a world of difference between lending money to the bank and borrowing money from the bank. When you borrow money from the bank, you become just a statistic to them. Really. Have you ever tried calling a bank helpline? Okay, they put you through their answering machine, wait half an hour, and then finally somebody answers, and the first thing they ask you, what is your IC number? Right? What is your bank account number? What is your credit card number? You're just a number to them. Okay, they're really not interested in you as a human. You're just a number in their system. And when you're in debt, it means you're no longer fully working for yourself. Because every month, a chunk of your hard-earned money goes to the bank first. In fact, you don't pay the bank first. You don't pay the bank first. You're going to be in even more serious trouble. And the more money you borrow, the more control the bank has over your life and the less control you have over your own life. When you are nobody and when you have no control of your life, what do you call that? What are you? You're a slave. You're a slave. I regret to say that in my previous life, I acted for many banks, okay, most of the banks in Singapore, against literally hundreds of their customers. I took away their possessions. In many cases, I took away the houses that they live in, and I sold all this off to pay for their debts. And very often, even all that was not enough to pay their debts, I went on to make lots and lots of people bankrupt. Some of them were so desperate, they went to the MP's Meet the People session. And then the MPs will write a very strongly worded letter to me, say, this is my constituency, this guy in my constituency, he has these money problems, but give him more time to pay. Okay, very strongly worded letters, almost ordering me to give this guy more time to pay. I will always reply very politely because they are MP, I give them some face, right? But then after that, I'll just go ahead and do the same thing anyway. No difference. And the MPs know. And the lawyers know that, oh, this letter writing, no, it's just for show. It changes nothing. But those poor guys didn't know, right? Because they were so desperate, they were grasping at straws. They've lost control of their lives. It's very sad. But the reality is this, is that this is what happens when you become a slave. You lose control of your life while other people get rich over it. Now, if you don't manage money properly, it's going to manage you. Okay, so don't become a slave. Tell the person next to you, don't become a slave. Now, the third thing that happens when we put our trust in money is that it will inevitably result in self-centeredness. Self-centeredness. As we've already seen, this man, he was totally oblivious to the people around him. In his universe, there's only himself and his grain, his wealth. Surely in that town, there were poor orphans, there were widows, there were other needy people. Someone has said this, all you need to do is to take 2 small coins and put them in front of your eyes, and you blot out the rest of the world. Okay, that's the effect of money. In fact, they live in a culture. The Old Testament had lots to say about taking care of the poor and needy, and about not taking all the harvest from your field to leave some behind for the poor. But this rich man, had forgotten all about that, all about those people. When we trust in money, we become focused on how much more we want to have rather than how needy other people are. Now, these are just some of the hazards. Okay, I haven't even gone to talking about the spiritual effect that money has, okay, on us when we trust in wealth. These are just some of the hazards that come with wealth management. If you are not careful about the tendency of your heart to trust in wealth, you will lose a lot of things. They are the most precious things. You will lose your peace. You'll be full of stress. You will lose control over your life, and you thought that if only I have more money, I can control my life. And you will lose sight of other people. And I haven't even started talking about losing sight of God Himself, for those of you who are Christians. What can we do to safeguard ourselves from the hazards of wealth? Number 3, precautions for managing wealth. Now, we need to understand the problem is not with money. The problem is with our hearts. There's something inside our heart that wants to go in a certain direction when it comes to money. And it is the unchecked autopilot in our hearts that lead us into harmful situations and destructive behavior when it comes to money. So to manage wealth safely, we need to deliberately set our hearts against its normal inclinations. Or a simpler way to put this simply is this: you cannot just do whatever you feel like doing when it comes to money. Okay, because we live in an age where this is the mantra of the age. Do whatever you feel like doing, follow your heart. Now, you're going to follow your heart when it comes to money, it will lead you into all kinds of pitfalls. We need instead to go deliberately against the inclination of our hearts when it comes to money. And Jesus gives us 2 clues about the precautions that we need to take to tame and to tutor our hearts. Okay, in his story or in the passage, it says, Luke chapter 12, his first thing he says to them is, watch out, be on your guard. You need to take deliberate, intentional action. If you're complacent about this, it's going to get you. Number 2, he says, whoever stores up things for themselves. Okay, this is the problem. People who store up things for themselves, that is the inclination of your heart, and that will be, okay, it's going to lead you into all kinds of problems. And based on these 2 teachings, let me just give you 2 lifestyle applications, 2 lifestyle guidelines that we need to take as precautions so that our hearts will not lead us into destructive behavior with regard to money. Okay, number 1, you need to live well below your wealth level. Okay, you need to live well below your wealth level. Over time, almost all of us will see our income levels rise. Along with that, most of us will see also our expenditures rise in tandem with our income. Because with more income, we also up our lifestyle as well. Now we need everything better, newer, flashier, shinier. We drink better. Okay, cheap ordinary wine will no longer satisfy us. We need the vintage wine. We eat better. I mean, today, if somebody say, let's go and eat durians, you can be sure that nothing less than MSW will do. Okay? In fact, now you guys say, I must eat the lao su, san sang lao su, san ting lao su, black hei chi, whatever. Nothing less than the best MSW would do. Anything else is not going to satisfy you. You need to keep upgrading to the latest phone model. One camera not enough, two camera not enough. Now I have 3 cameras. Very soon the whole phone will be covered with cameras. You spend more money on a flashier car because it's not just enough that a vehicle can you from point A to point B. Okay, now it needs, you say it needs to keep you safe. So you must buy a safer car. You need to impress people. You need to buy a shinier car. Okay, you need to get there faster in time. You need to buy a faster car, although in traffic in Singapore, no difference. Right? And now it's not just enough to carry any old handbag to work where you can put a few stuffed tissue paper, wallet in. Right? You need to buy a branded handbag as well. See, these things happen to us as our income level rise. It just happens, right? Because we are not deliberate about it. Actually, there are 3 possibilities. If you think about it simply, there are 3 possibilities when it comes to this. Okay, for many of you, your income, your expenditure will track your income closely. Okay, as your income levels rise, your expenditure is going to rise in tandem, which means that you're not going to, even though you may be making 5 times, 6 times, 10 times more than what you used to do, you don't have greater margin. You don't have a greater amount of money to save, to give away, to invest. For others, and this is really serious, as your income level rises, your expenses rise even faster because you keep upping your lifestyle faster than your income, your rising income can support. You spend more money than you make. Now, guys, that is a sure recipe for disaster. Okay, that is what the banks, credit card companies try to persuade you to do all the time. Okay, if you do that, you are their most preferred customers. Okay, for sure, because they're ripping you off every month. That's a sure recipe for financial disaster. Make sure it never happens to you. Make sure it never happens to you. I think it was Bill Gates, guy, he knows about money, right? He says that you can't get through life paying 24% a year interest. You're not going to make it. And if you're already stuck in the situation, do everything you can to get out of it starting right now. Otherwise, you will become a slave. Tell the person next to you, don't become a slave. Now, these are 2 possibilities, right? But if you want to manage wealth properly, and especially for those of you who are followers of Jesus Christ, you need to apply the 3rd scenario. Okay? And the Bible tells us this in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6. It says, but godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. A lot of you Christians read this, become very worried. Food and clothing only? What about my phone? Yeah? This does not mean you can food and clothing only. It means that you should deliberately choose to live way below your means and learn how to be happy with that. And you can do it because you realize that it is not money that really satisfies the deepest needs of your heart. And as your income rises over time, your expenditures rise at a far slower pace. You will have an increasing amount surplus to save, to invest, and to give away. Just like what we said last week, you'll be able to apply the plan, give first, save second, spend last. If you don't do this, you can't do it. You need to do this not just so that you can follow the plan, but so that money does not take over control of your life. It does not become a false god in your life. This exercise, this whole lifetime discipline is about tutoring your heart about money and protecting yourself from the hazards of wealth. How can we do that? Well, each one of us got to find our own ways to do it in our own circumstances. Right? But, okay, here's one way I just share. Here's one way I do it. Here's a copy of my latest electricity bill. Okay? Yeah, this is a copy of my latest electricity bill. There are 7 of us living in the same household. Okay, this is an all-time low, I must say. Okay, last month, the norm, I paid, if you can see the small word, $79.49. Yeah? And that's a deliberate decision that my wife and I made long time ago, that this is one way that we will train our own hearts and train our children to live well below our wealth level. Okay, I think the national average is probably 5 times of that. Now, most of your household, you spend 5 times, 4 times, 5 times of that, and you have fewer people in your household. Okay, and it's our little way of contributing to the environment, to have a smaller carbon footprint as well. Okay, this is just one way that I try to do it. Now, you guys, you got to think in your own way. How you apply this principle in your own life to live well below your wealth level. Okay? Number 2, the second lifestyle adjustment you need to make is you need to give well above your willingness level. Okay, you need to give well above your willingness level. Maybe some of you who are new to coming to church, this is where the red flag goes up. Aha! Okay, this is what the whole sermon is really about. No, it's not. Listen, it's not enough just to spend less. In fact, some of you have no problem doing that at all. Because it's not because you are so liberated and enlightened. It's because your tendency to trust in wealth manifests not in splurging, but in hoarding. What gives you a kick is to see your wealth grow, accumulate. Okay, not the flashier things that you can buy and show off. Now, the truth is this. I never heard anybody admit that they hoard. Okay, they just say, I'm just careful with money. Oh, I'm just saving up for a rainy day. But whatever you believe about yourself, the Bible says that our hearts are deceitful above all things. You don't know yourself. You don't know your own heart. Inside our hearts, there's a great tendency to trust in money by stockpiling it. One of the most insightful and memorable teaching of Jesus, if you know nothing else about the Bible, you need to know about this, is what Jesus said in the very same chapter, Luke chapter 12, verse 34. He says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Wow, this is just timeless wisdom, okay? That's held down through the ages of human history. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Another way to put it is our wealth, our money simply follows the directions of our hearts. Our wealth flows towards the inclinations of our hearts, towards what we consider precious, valuable, important, desirable. You want to know what really matters to you? See what you pour your money into. Is it into your children? You know where your heart is. Okay. Is it into securing educational advancement? That's where your heart is. Okay. Is it in helping the poor? That's where your heart is. So if you're keeping lots of money to yourself, that tells you that your heart is really set on yourself. And left to itself, our heart will always tell us to protect ourselves, look out for ourselves, and make sure that we are better off compared to other people. Your heart will want to hoard. It will resist giving. Well, many of you say, no, I give generously. It will either resist giving or it will not be willing to give beyond a certain level. Every one of us, at some level, our heart will start protesting. Enough already. Or your spouse will start protesting. Hey, stop giving away so much of money. Right? If you give only at the level you're comfortable with, that your heart is comfortable with, that you're willing, you are going to be trusting in money. You are still trusting in money. You are not watching out. You're not guarding yourself against greed as Jesus warned you to. You are storing up things for yourselves instead of becoming rich towards God. Now, it's a hard lesson to learn because we think that we know ourselves so well. People may not understand us, but we understand ourselves. No. This is the real state of our hearts. To take precaution against the hazards of wealth, we must deliberately decide to give more than we are comfortable with. In other words, when you give, there must be an ouch factor in it. Really. In case you think that this is me just trying to manipulate people to give more money, Here is someone who is acknowledged to be one of the most brilliant thinkers of the last century, and he says essentially the same thing, only much more eloquently than I can. C.S. Lewis, in Mere Christianity, says, I do not believe one can settle how much we ought to give. I'm afraid the only safe rule is to give more than we can spare. In other words, if our expenditure on comforts, luxuries, amusements, etc., is up to the standard common among those with the same income as our own, we are probably giving away too little. If our charities do not at all pinch or hamper us, I should say they are too small. There ought to be things we should like to do and cannot do because our charitable expenditure excludes them. Notice, Lewis uses the words, the only safe rule. He's not saying, there are a lot of needy people out there, let's be generous. Let's maximize the giving. He's saying this is about your safety. Okay? This is about protecting yourself from the inclinations of your own heart when it comes to money. It is about taking appropriate safety precautions from the hazards of managing wealth. Because if you don't manage your money, you can be sure your heart will ensure that your money manages you. That's the lesson for today, and the principles for today. But as in last week, okay, I just want to share with you one practical application. Okay, one practical application that you can immediately adopt. Okay, this is not the point of the sermon. This is not the objective of the sermon. This is one possible application that you can adopt if you think that this makes sense to you. Okay, and it is our church building fund. Right? We recently started a Rise Up and Build fund. And some people ask me, what does the logo mean? Well, some people say it looks like BCC. Some people tell me it looks like BDG. Okay. Yeah, you use your imagination. This is modern abstract art. Okay? But the point is, when you see this logo, give lah. Okay? Rise Up and Build. And we want the whole church to do this exercise together lah. Okay? And that is to get everybody into the habit, as many people as possible, into the habit of giving a small amount regularly on a monthly basis to the church building fund. Okay, because we take a multi-pronged approach. Okay, we ask people to give a big amount once a year. They will give to the King offering, and most of that will go into the building fund. We have an investment team that is very actively, even now, okay, looking into ways to invest and grow the money that we currently have. But I think that this is the third thing that we can and ought to do, not because it's going to add a lot of money in the building fund, but it's good for our souls. Okay, it's good for us as we practice how to manage the hazards of money, that we get into the habit of giving regularly a sum, relatively small, is fine, to the building fund. Okay, some of you are not working. If all you can give is $5, give that $5. That's great. Okay, I think God will be pleased with that. But do take the pledge card, okay, out. If you are ready today, you can pledge. If you are not ready, last week, next Sunday, we will still give out the pledge card. Or anytime you can do so online, to make a pledge digitally. At the same time, as you do this, as I shared last week, you get the chance to have a voice in saying, in the kind of church, a future church that we want to have, okay, when we eventually build it. And a brother was asking me today, how long are we going to take today? I say, I hope within the next 10 years. But the faster that we do this, the more we give, the more we will be able, the faster we'll be able to see that come to pass. And the truth is, when the church reaches a certain size, it will need to have a building fund. And even if you get a piece of land, tender for land, and build a church on it, you will continue into a building fund, because nowadays, all the church and government releases is for 30 years only. So from day one, after you get into the land, you got to start collecting a building fund for the renewal of lease 30 years down the road, because we want to be responsible people, okay, to pass something on to the future generations. Okay, so I know this is something new to many of us. I mean, we never had this. What's the problem? Why do we need to start it now? Okay, because we want to provide for the future, and we have reached a certain size where it's increasingly difficult to secure premises. We have talked a lot about moving out of Fuzhou. You can see the whole room is full already. or should we run a second service? We should put, of course, greater stress on all the team members who run the service every month. We talk a lot about that. But the reality is it's very difficult to find premises large enough to accommodate us out there unless you pay 4 times the price, average, to do that. So that's not a good use of money. Okay? It makes a lot more sense for us to build our own building. And I just want to encourage all of you. I know you love Brighton Community Church, okay? And I just want to urge you to express that love by contributing something to the building fund, making this pledge, and to indicate the kind of future church you'd like to have. We have 4 categories for you, in 4 boxes downstairs that you can go to. Fantastic worship facilities and spaces. We can have great community spaces. We can have cool features. You can vote for interactive learning environment. So far, the great community spaces and cooler features are leading. Not very spiritual, but they are the ones that are leading. So if you can contribute your vote to that, we will take that into account. As we plan for our dream church building. If you do it digitally, you can do the same as well. So please do. So far, we only have 44 pledges. I'm very optimistic. I take that you are taking this very seriously. You really want to fast and pray about it. But please start doing it today or latest by next week.